Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on Single-Handedly. I'm Thomas,
And I'm Nick.
and today we've got a very special guest, Nick. Very last minute. I'm sorry for the setup hassle, and sorry to our guest, actually.
It is our first international guest.
Hey, round of applause.
It's true.
So,
our honor.
today we're joined by Ali Jawad. He is a Paralympic silver medalist, world champion, gold medalist. He owns his own tech company, doing his PhD, and he's just like me. So, Ali, thanks for joining us.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So, where do we get started? Lots to say. Where to start? Which corner of the life
Oh,
do we go from?
we're going to start from birth?
Sure.
From birth, let's
Okay.
go.
So I was born in Lebanon. I was born as a double leg amputee. When I was born, the doctor asked my parents if they wanted me to, or if they wanted to get rid of me,
Oh,
because obviously disabled child in Lebanon at the time of the Civil War, it's just not, it's not great. So luckily my parents said no, we're going to keep him, but they realized very quickly that they needed to give me a normal life. So we fled to the UK. So when I was 6 months old, we came over to London, and the rest has been incredible.
cool. So, from a young age, one thing that I think me and you have in common right now is we don't wear prosthetics. So
Yep.
how do you get around?
So wheelchair,
Okay.
or I crawl. So have you seen a dog running
Okay.
after food?
Like that?
When I see cake, that's what I do.
I think that's the most beautiful thing about like being humans, because we're so adaptable at what we do. Like we find like a way to do anything.
And sometimes, I mean, like when I met with you, I started realizing how many times I take things for granted. But at the same time, like Thomas has no problem doing the same things I do as well, which still gets me thinking like, wow, like he's actually capable of literally doing the same things that I do. I would expect that, of course, kind of similar situation for you, that I think you had to adapt to the kind of the world around you in your own way, of course.
Yeah, I think the one thing about being adaptable is my parents, when I started school, had to decide whether or not I went to a special needs school, or a mainstream school. And they said, no, we think for him to achieve his potential, he probably has to go to mainstream school. But this is what they did, which is controversial. They took me to schools that had no facilities, no ramps, no lifts, nothing. So they go, right, this is life, go and adapt. So I thought me having to climb upstairs, slide downstairs, carry my wheelchair up and down, steps was normal. I thought that was normal because I thought I had to adapt. So what they did was they go, this is how you adapt in life, but they use school as a trial, see if I can handle it. But what that did, it allowed me to be very confident in my ability. I learned very quickly. Any obstacle that I faced, I got through quite easily. But also, it allowed me to develop loads of like skills. Like I was confident, I was cheeky, I was loud, I was an extrovert. I had a big friendship group, so I was never bullied. I was in the popular group. Very popular with the girls too when I was a kid, because I was quite cute. Not anymore, but I was cute. So yeah, like it taught me a way of kind of reaching my potential as a kid, because they chose a very controversial way of raising me, where now that would never happen. So yeah, I was quite lucky with the upbringing. They said, nope, I don't care if you've got no legs, you've got a brain, you've got emotions, go and adapt. So yeah, I adapted quite quickly.
And that like rough environment, I guess, because nowadays it's all very accessible. I guess it's more accessible than it was probably back then.
Oh yeah, more accessible now.
Does that show you, or like it was the hardest back then, so then it sort of things got more accessible and more easy, so you already got the hardest of it, so you could be a bit like, oh, this is easy now, like.
Yeah, so I've always, I think that upbringing has made me always chase after challenges on purpose. I chase after adversity on purpose because that stimulates me. It gets me excited. It means that I can truly learn of what I'm capable of, because I put myself in situations that are uncomfortable. And I used to do it every day. So even though, yes, it was considered tough back then, I've had to make up for it by making things harder now because I don't like easy. I always take the harder path because easy for me doesn't really stimulate me that much. It's not rewarding.
All right, so you moved from the Middle East to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you?
I was 6 months old.
6 months
Yeah,
old.
so a very cute baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which part of the UK did you move to?
London,
And what part of London?
Tottenham.
Okay, Tottenham is known for having a bit of
It was
ghetto.
it was rough back then. Yeah, I'll say it was the ghetto back then. We came from humble background. I guess when I was growing up, you either kind of stay to survive in gangs or you get out of there and you dream bigger. And I was lucky that at 6 years old, I dreamt of going to Paralympic Games, so I knew I was destined for bigger.
Okay, so you were always surrounded around crime and
Yeah.
I guess drugs and
Yeah, crime, drugs, knife crime, gangs. Luckily, because I was so headstrong, nobody messed with me. But I'd fight too.
okay.
Yeah, because even though I had no legs, I was quite strong with upper body. So people my age weren't as big as me. So they never messed. Plus, who'd hit a disabled person? Come on. So I use that to my advantage. But yeah, I had bigger dreams than just staying in Tottenham.
So how did you, at 6 years old, decide, listen, my future is going to be this, like being a Paralympian, for example?
Yeah, well, probably by accident. In, I think, 96, I was watching the Atlanta Olympics. So you guys are too young, but you probably might know him. I watched a man called Michael Johnson win his historic 200 and 400 gold medals. And
Doping. Controversy.
Well, it's never been caught. And I think the way he speaks, I do believe him. I think he's a freak. I think he's
Okay.
one of them where I think he's a
No,
freak.
definitely.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
amazing.
He's
athlete.
amazing.
You
Yeah.
can't take that away from him.
But what struck me when I was watching him was the way he was running. I was like, he's running like a duck, but he's beating everybody. Yeah, he was running like a duck.
Give me some background. I have no idea who this guy is.
So, amazing athlete, amazing sprinter, and he had quite a unique way of running. He used to run a bit with his legs. I mean, they were
Yeah,
Doesn't-
you know how ducks just run.
Yeah.
Like, ducks.
the
Yeah, so,
technique was a
yeah.
bit.
Broad body kind of.
yeah. So if I had to compare his technique to something, it would be a duck. But he was a very fast duck. It was world record at the time.
Yep.
It was unbelievable what I witnessed, and I knew I was witnessing something very special. But it was when he was on the podium where I saw his emotion, what it meant to him. Now, even though he was American, not British, something in me said, I need to feel what he's feeling. I have to feel what he's feeling. So I thought, I'm going to be there. Now, at the time, it was the Olympics because the Paralympic Games was not really on TV when I was 6. So I felt I was going to go to the Olympics, which is crazy. But regardless, I wanted to be on the podium just like him and experience it. So I made it my life mission to try and get there.
So after seeing it at 6 years old, when was the first step towards sport? Because you didn't get into weightlifting till quite later on.
Yeah, so when I was 11,
Okay.
I started judo by accident.
Judo.
Yeah, judo by accident. So I was in the playground. Somebody called me a disabled pig. So they took the piss out of me, right?
Okay.
So I got off my wheelchair and started beating them up. So the teacher came, pulled me away. And remember, I'm a good child, so I don't get detention. So she goes to me, right, detention after school. I was like, what? But he called me, he's like, I don't care. You reacted. Look at him, like you battered him. But yeah, so I got sent to detention. But in school, we had a detention room. But she goes, no, I want you to come to the sports hall. I was like, that's weird. Detention's not there. So I said to, I called my mum and said, I'm going to be late. I didn't want to tell her that I had detention because you'd kill me. Arab parents, that the sticks start hitting you.
Is it a Lebanese thing?
Lebanese thing, yeah. My parents, because they thought I was the golden child. So, so I got into the sports hall and there was loads of mats laid out. And she said to me, right, you know what you did to that boy today? Do it to me. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, here's a judo gi. I want you to fight. I was like, huh? She battered me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because she was a black belt in judo. She's my PT teacher. Yeah. I got absolutely battered. And I was like, oh my God, I'm being beaten by a woman. Obviously, I was 11. I was like, I'm being bit by a woman. I don't tell anybody in school, they might take the piss out of you. But what she did was she humbled me. Like completely humbled me. But she said to me that, I think you have potential to do this. And I want to coach you. So we created a judo club at school. Went 4 times a week. It was my first kind of time where I was juggling to be an athlete and doing my homework, like going to school. My parents were obviously not that sporty. They wanted me to focus on academia, but I said to them that I can do both and I'll prove it. So at 11, I had to, 1, grow up, but 2, try to organize my time in a way where I could do both. So I did judo for 4 years to a high standard, but judo at the Paralympic Games is only available for blind and visually impaired, not for amputees. So we didn't know that at the time because obviously parasport wasn't transparent anything. The classification system back then was not that great. So we only found out maybe a couple of months before the Athens Paralympic Games, even though I was incredibly good, I'm not going because of classification. And that was heartbreaking. So 4 years of work down the drain.
But one thing that I've seen a lot in, especially wrestling as well, freestyle wrestling and all martial arts, usually people with an amputee tend to compete with much smaller people than them because, especially for me, I used to do judo as well. And I was bigger than my competitors because the muscles and the bones which were missing from here, I could make up in my legs and in my other arm.
Okay. No, I was fighting able-bodied men.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was fighting. Yeah,
but your weight class would be the same.
Yes.
So you're much wider than them.
You think I'm fat? Come on. I'm joking.
No, but the first thing I noticed about you was your arms. Have you ever measured them?
Yes. So at my peak, this was before Rio, I weighed 55 kilo. Okay. So 8 stone and a half, I think. I was 17 and a half inches, my arms.
How much?
17 and a half inches. Yeah, at my peak. I was incredibly big for that body weight, yeah.
17 and a half inches. Nick, you know what you're saying?
I saw some videos of you lifting weight. I'd have to say, quite fucking impressive.
Okay, talking to the gym boys. First of all, drop how much do you think Ali lifts?
Bench press.
Bench press.
Not squat, because that's...
You've got 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. And you want to tell them how much you lift?
So my competition personal best, this was when I weighed probably 55, 56 kilo, is 195. But in the gym, I've bench pressed 202 kilo.
Good.
200 kg.
Yeah.
Some people don't even dream squatting that.
Yeah, people can't even do it with their legs. So imagine the pain that I went through with my arms.
And talk us through the process then. At 16 years old, first time going into the gym.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Was it intimidating? Was it something that you were really excited about? How was it?
It was actually by accident.
Okay.
So in the UK, we do when you're 16, you do GCSEs, exams. So I finished, I think it was the maths exam, and my friend was like, do you want to go to the gym across the road? Because there's a gym across the road from the school. He said, oh, let's go. I was like, no, I need to go home and revise. My parents will kill me. I was like, no, let's go. I was like, okay. So we went to the gym across the road, and this gym is proper, like, old-fashioned, like Rocky Balboa, spit and sawdust gym, like leaking, dusty, grunting, smelly, like, it was like Rocky, which I love Rocky because I grew up with Rocky. So obviously at that age, you want to bench press because you know what boys like at 16. Let's bench press. Remember, this is my first day in the gym ever, so I've never been to a gym, never touched a weight. So because all the judo stuff was circuits, bodyweight stuff. Yeah. So got to the gym. We got a corner. Started bench pressing. My first ever bench press, I got to 100 kilo. Yeah, the whole room completely stopped. And I thought I did something wrong. I was like, why are they looking at me weird? Like, it's a gym. You guys are lifting more than me. Like what have I done? So this big guy comes up to me. He's like, stay here. I need to get somebody. And I was like, oh, no, I've done something wrong. I said to my friend, we're packing, we're going. Right? So we packed the weights, went to reception to get out. And this old man blocked my way. He's like, where are you going? I said, going home. He's like, no. He goes, do you know what you've done? I was like, no. What have I done? He said, you've lifted 100 kilo. I was like, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? He's like, well, you're obviously 16. This is obviously your first time here. And not many men lift 100 kilo, even if they train. He said, you're going to have to come back. He goes, I can get you to a Paralympic Games because I used to be the national coach. He owned the gym. So we're lucky that you had somebody of that caliber, being next door to school. So I went home that night and I researched what I had to do to get to the Paralympic Games. Back then, this was crazy. So just to qualify my body weight at the time, just to qualify, was 180 kilo. Just to qualify. Now, juniors do not do very well in powerlifting because it takes a very long time to gain maximal strength. You have to work very, very hard to get to that sort of standard. So not many juniors get to a Paralympic Games back then. So you have to be very special to go. So I went back and said, I went back to him the next day and I said to him, 180 kilo, like, I can't do that. He said, well, yeah, but forget about the weight. You're so young. These guys, they're 10 years older than you, So he said that in 10 years' time, probably even less, I'll be up there. So this was 2006 and Beijing was 2008. He said to me, forget about Beijing because you're too young. He actually said to me, if you get to Beijing, I'll drug test you myself, as a joke, obviously. He goes, but the one afterwards, you'll be 23, you'll be in that bracket of going. So I committed 4 times a week. And also I was going to college as well. So I was balancing, but I'm used to balancing. And then within 2 years, on my birthday, I qualified for Beijing. Broke the British record, senior record 4 times that day to go. And I managed to get there.
And what was your qualifying?
180.
180.
Yeah, so the British record at the time was 170 senior. It's not been broken for 25 years, and I was a junior, so I had to break it 4 times to go, and I did it on my birthday.
Amazing.
The best cake I'm ever gonna have.
And had you already started with full-on training? So was it full team around you? To put that into perspective, what goes into an actual team at the highest level?
Right. Okay. So we're talking at the highest level.
Highest.
Yeah, so not when I started. So the highest.
Potentially later on. Exactly.
At the highest level.
What does a day look like with your team?
So in the UK, we're lucky to have lottery funding in the UK. Lottery funding funds a lot of the Olympic and Paralympic sports. Okay. What that does, it allows the athlete to train full time. The athlete gets an athlete award. So it's like a grant. So you're technically getting paid to be full time. But what it does allow, which is better than payment, is it surrounds you with the best possible team, the best coaches, the best sports scientists, nutritionists, doctors, lifestyle advisors, anything you can think of, I have access to, right? And that's mega expensive if I had to pay for it myself. But what they do, they're in charge of getting me to my optimal performance at major championships.
Okay.
They work together. They monitor me. I get coached. I learn. I think there was maybe 7 or 8 people in my team, just for me and the other lifters. But I know how lucky that sounds that I have a team like that, incredibly intelligent people guiding me on to that level. The UK, we're quite lucky in that sense that we have got a system that really does help athletes.
What would, if the average person had to do it, what would that cost them?
You know what? For 1 year, if you look at all the salaries that my team potentially has, I don't know their salaries, but I'm guessing. I'm thinking like maybe 150, 200k a year, at least. But you have to remember, like, I have access to a national centre with the best gym in the country, in the world, at Loughborough University. So, and also training camps are paid for, competitions are paid for, all the medical stuff is paid for. So I get benefits on top of the team. So yeah, I'm incredibly lucky. Yeah, so it's very expensive.
Something I want to ask, that's been kind of looming in the back of my head. So you said that when you were young, they kind of wanted you to adapt to everything. How was that like? Was it a big struggle for you? Did it at any point kind of break you down where you couldn't understand like why maybe you weren't like other people or something like that? Like what was the thinking behind that when you were growing up?
So that's a good question, because a lot of people think that I must have struggled in the time. And that was actually the opposite, because I thought adapting was normal. So when kids around me wasn't adapting to their environment, they're breaking down, I was like, why are you so weak? Get up. And they looked at me like, what? I was like, get up. Like, you fell, you hurt your knee, so what? I got one knee. Like, when you put it into perspective, they're like, oh, yeah, like, he's only got one knee. Shit, okay. So I've always been someone that can adapt very easily, because that's how I'm built. I always see obstacles as, a lot of people run away from obstacles. I run towards them because I feel like I can get over them. And that's where the challenge is. So I can tolerate a lot in terms of, I can tolerate failure upon failure and failing, keep going. I'm someone that can perform a task no matter how I feel. I can be sad, I can be angry, I can be anxious, I can be happy, I can be confident. I can perform exactly the same task every time. And that's the key.
I think it's a perfect answer, firstly. And you mentioned that, of course, well, it comes to a physical challenge that you had, but I think obviously it helped you mentally a lot as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of went hand in hand. Were there any times when you were growing up that you had a negative kind of experience where it made you think like, is this who I am? Is everyone else thinking they're better than me?
This sounds really weird, but I felt that I was misunderstood because the kids around me weren't thinking like me or feeling like me. Because I was adapting to many things, a lot of them had it a little bit easier and they were still struggling. And I didn't understand why they were struggling, because kids don't really talk about their emotions. They just lash out or they fight.
So you obviously had to mature.
I had to mature much quicker.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, why are they so emotional over little things? Because if I can adapt easily, why are they not on my level? Now, I'm not saying that I'm better. I'm saying that at the time I had to really think about how I behaved in front of them, because I would have been the odd one out because I was adapting and taking things in my stride. So I learned very quickly that a lot of people feel things differently, and you have to understand it from their point of view. You have to really understand somebody before you judge them. I ideally don't judge them, because a lot of people have experiences that they're still kind of processing. And some people take a long time to process emotions and feelings and reality, where I can process very quickly and move on. Some people can't do that. So I had to really understand that when I was a kid.
Okay, now going on to something else. You achieved a lot when you were still young.
Mm-hmm.
The Paralympic Games, which the first one was Beijing. And that was in which year?
2008.
2008. And you were also in 2008 diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Yeah, so I got diagnosed in 2009.
Okay.
The night before I competed in Beijing. So remember, I was in college. I'm going to the Paralympic Games. I was famous in college, right? I was one of the popular ones because I was going to the games, right? The only person at the college to ever make it, because the college I went to was academic. They didn't have sports people. So I was living the dream, 19, training full-time plus education. I was like thinking this is great. And then you get, life humbles you. It likes to remind you that actually you sometimes you have to put your stumps on the floor, not on your feet. So the night before I competed, I think it was dinner time. I started getting quite sick. I didn't know why. I was getting feverish. My right side was hurting, my tummy. I thought it was my tummy was hurting me. I was sweating. I was fatigued. I didn't know why, because I thought I was in the best shape I've been at the time. And I got back to the apartment in the village, and I got worse. So overnight, I'd lost 3 kilo overnight. I was seeing blood in the toilet. I couldn't believe what was going on. Now, I thought I'd caught something because obviously in a Paralympic village, you've got different nationalities, different habits, different cultures, different foods, and sometimes you do catch stuff, it's just an alien environment, right? But yeah, I woke up and they were going to pull me out because they weighed me. They're like, nah, like you're going to be quarantined. We have to monitor you. And I said, no, I begged them. I said, look, I'm not here to medal because I'm a kid. Like I was never here to medal. I was actually lucky that I got here because it's only been 2 years. I just want to compete. So whatever position I come, but I just want to compete. So I managed to compete. The aim was not to come last because I qualified in last place to go, but I didn't come last, which was good. But my performance was not that great. And yeah, I got flown home. And then that's when the nightmare happened because when I got home, it got much worse. So I lost 20 kilo in body weight in 8 weeks, which is a lot of body weight to lose. I was seeing blood in the toilet constantly. My stomach was always hurting, like severe pain. We're not talking about like cramps. We're talking about pain that will make you pass out. I wasn't eating. I'd lost all my gains. So obviously at 19, you're looking buff and then you're looking thin. The joke was I looked like a zombie. Where I lost my colour because I'm quite tanned. I lost my colour. I was very pale. Yeah, so it was quite worrying. So they started testing me for cancer. So I thought, I can't believe this. I've achieved my goal of the dream, and now I'm getting tested for cancer in a hospital bed. And then took them 9 months to diagnose me with Crohn's. Now, at the time, I didn't know what Crohn's disease was. I thought I'd take a tablet and go home, and I'm back in the gym. But the consultant was, quite adamant. This is going to change my life. Crohn's is uncurable. You have to manage it.
For those who don't know, can you give us a brief of what Crohn's is?
Yeah. So how I describe it is, everyone's immune system protects them. Okay, mine attacks me. So because it attacks me, it gives me symptoms, like quite bad symptoms. So extreme diarrhea, blood, extreme fatigue. You're talking fatigue where you can't get out of bed. You're always tired. It's just, you're always tired. Severe pain, like you're in severe pain if it flares, and it could be fatal at the extreme. Yeah. So when I got the diagnosis, at the time was 2009. No Crohn sufferer had ever won a medal at any Olympic or Paralympic Games. It has never been done at the time. So what I was about to do, potentially, was to go after something that has never been attempted because medical science hasn't caught up with elite athletes having Crohn's. So in 2009, it was either retirement, which was advised, or I used myself as a guinea pig to try and pull it off.
And that's what you went for?
I chose to be a legless guinea pig, yeah.
So what was that journey like? Of course, in 2009, you were diagnosed. Doctor tells you, listen, you have Crohn's. It's going to change your life. Mm-hmm. Walk me through that. Like, what was your mental state?
So that meant that I was crazy because I think at the time, I think my girlfriend was in the room. And this was like a new relationship. And I thought, wow, it's going to affect her because she was an athlete at the time. So I thought, she's going to have to look after me when I flare. This is crazy. Like, when 19, 20, she shouldn't have to look after me. And she's a gold medalist in Beijing. Like, she was like big time. I was nothing. So I felt that it wasn't just going to affect me. The decision I made is going to affect everybody else around me. It's whether or not they were ready for what's going to come because I didn't even know what's going to come. So it got to a point where I tried to make a comeback. It wasn't working. I was passing out in the gym, literally passing out in the gym. Training was going badly. I had to do loads of trial and error, but it wasn't working. I was failing every day. Crohn's was beating me big time, big style. And it got to 2010 in March. I remember waking up with my girlfriend at the time. She woke me up. She's like, "Can you smell that?" I was like, "Smell what?" She's like, "There's a smell in the room." It was dark. So she goes, "It smells like blood." I was like, "Nah, it's not blood. Well, I don't know what that smell is." She put the light on. The covers came off. I was covered in blood. Crazy. And I was like, whoa. She goes, right, hospital. So I remember being in Leicester. Hospital. And I was really sick. So what happened was, luckily I had private medical care, and they rushed me in that week to do some blood tests. They said, we're going to have to operate to remove part of your intestine because it's too inflamed, because that's why you're so sick. I remember the night before the operation in London, the doctor came and said, we're going to have to prepare your parents for the worst. We don't know we're going to find in there. If you survive, we just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So we have to prepare everyone. So my friends came, my family came. You could see the fear of my mum. I think my mum's face got me the most because you could tell that like she'd lost her colour. And it was actually me that tried to kind of raise the mood. I said, look, if I die, I die. Like, I'm going to fight. I always do. And if I die, I've been to a game, so it's fine. I've achieved my dream. It's cool. So we had the operation. It was 6.5 hours long. I got woken up and I said to the nurse, am I dead? She was like, no, you're fine. He goes, you're a great fighter. She said, you pulled through and now you recover. The issue was that me being me, 2012 was 2 years away. Now, obviously, I'd not competed since Beijing. I was really sick. And I realized that the doctor gave me another chance. He saved my life. So I thought to myself, I cannot stand kind of letting the parade go by in my home city and I'm a spectator. I have to be there. I have to compete. So I said to the doctor, I'm planning to come back. He looked at me, he's like, no, I can't sign you off. He goes, you need 6 months bed rest. He goes, you cannot come back. This is, we saved your life. Go live. So I said, yeah, you saved my life, so I'm going to go live. So what I did was, I was in the hospital for like a week, and then the second week I went to the gym. Yeah, don't do that. Went to the gym, lifted 110 kilo. I thought I'd ripped. I thought I'd ripped the internal stitching on my intestine because it was painful. Now, luckily nothing happened, but it felt like I'd done something. So I went to have my 4-week kind of update with the consultant. I looked at my scar. He goes to me, what have you done in 4 weeks? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're recovering more in 2 weeks than I've seen in 4 weeks than I've seen people recover in 4 months. The way you're standing, the way you're moving, you're not in any pain. What have you done? I was like, nothing apart from going to the gym. He goes, if you're serious about coming back, if you keep showing this progression, I'll sign you off. So he goes, give me a week. So I went, but yeah, after a week, we saw him again. He saw the scars. He goes, right, I'm going to sign you off. Go and train. He goes, if anything happens, come back. Anything. So I think he gave me the go-ahead to go for London, and managed to get to London on the last day of qualification. So in that 4-year cycle between Beijing and London, I only trained 5 months in 4 years, and I made the games in London. It was like a Rocky Balboa comeback. It was great.
Amazing. That's crazy.
It was such a roller coaster of emotions in such a short
time
amount of time.
Yeah.
So you diagnosed 2009, and you started training again
after 2010. Yeah.
Proper.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, because because to qualify is really hard in our sport. It's only the top 8 lifters make it. That's a very high standard. So it was a good comeback.
What's that thing that keeps you in check? How are you able to kind of wake up in the morning and know what you have to do and be motivated to continue doing that? How, like, when you have people who are like me, like say average people who want to go to the gym and they're not motivated, and how can someone like you, where you have went through all of that and then you still went up above everything and you're like, listen, I'm going to train, I'm going to do this. How did you manage to do that?
It's weird you've mentioned motivation, because it's not motivation. Motivation is a myth. You can only be motivated for 1 or 2 days in a week if you're lucky. It's about discipline. You have to be able to execute something no matter how you feel, because life is not going to stop for you. You have to always chase life. It's not going to happen for you and not on your lap if you're in bed. So I had to ask myself, no Crohn sufferer has ever done this, right? I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be unpredictable. I have to be flexible. I have to be able to absorb a lot of failures, and I had to. I had to also appreciate that people around me will doubt me because of what they're going to see me go through, because it's going to be painful for them to see. But for me, I knew that in the process, it's the person that absorbs the most pain and adapt to the most ridiculous obstacles is the person that, will get there eventually. So that's what I did. It's discipline. It's not motivation. Because imagine being motivated to try and chase after death. There's no motivation. For me, the motivation was to try and cheat it.
I couldn't have heard like a better explanation of what should push you forward. Like, it is discipline. It's not motivation. It's consistency. Things we really like speak about almost every episode.
Yeah,
It's always almost the same answer.
Yeah.
It's discipline and consistency and sacrifice. I think it's a good time to get on a short break. We'll be back very soon. Getting back to the fourth and final Paralympic Games, the Rio Games.
Even that Rio was third.
Rio, exactly, because Tokyo was the
fourth.
third.
Yeah.
The third Games, Rio.
Mm-hmm.
How were those then? Because Rio was the highlight, I guess.
Yeah, so after 2012, I had 4 years of incredible success. So I was, world champion, broke the world record 4 times. I'd won every major medal on offer, apart from the one that I wanted. The one that I wanted was a Paralympic one. And it's weird because going into the games, I was in the best shape of my life, and that's going to be the shape that I probably peaked at. But it's weird how you think that pressure won't get to you until you face it. And you have to remember, in 2009, no Crohn sufferer had ever won a medal at the Olympic or Paralympic Games. It's never happened. So because of the story behind it, I got a lot of coverage. The fact that I was in shape, I was going to the games as one of the favourites. I was one of the faces of Team GB at the time, or Paralympics GB at the time. And Crohn sufferers literally hung the medal around my neck before I got out there. And I thought to myself, if I don't do this, it'll be embarrassing. And that pressure was like, oh wow, this is serious now. Like, you're playing with the big boys now. Like, this is pressure. You're in good shape, and you have to deliver. And if you screw it up, it's going to be watched a million times, and you'll never forget it. So it was weird because, as you know, the Olympics is before the Paralympic Games. So ironically, I wasn't the first because I was at the training camp in Belo Horizonte. And I was woken up by a message from somebody on Twitter, I think, and they said, "Have you seen this?" And I was like, "That's weird." It turned out that night at the Olympics, a girl called Kathleen Baker from America, swimmer, had won silver with Crohn's. She did it. Yeah, she beat me to it. So I did the humble thing, obviously, and messaged her. She doesn't know me. I said, "Well done." She just obviously deserves it. I know what it took to do it. You know what? She messaged me back. She said, "Good luck." She doesn't feel like the first. We can be the first together. She was very, very humble about it. And then that took the pressure off me because it's been done. And then 2 weeks later it was my turn, and I did the same thing. So I completed the career slam of medals. Yeah. So career slam means Commonwealth Games, Europeans, World Championships, and Paralympic Games. They're the medals that you want, and I completed it. So yeah, for me it was incredible because being told it can't be done, to having 2 athletes with Crohn's, one at the Olympics and one at the Paralympics, doing it in 2 weeks. So yeah, it was a great moment.
Amazing. Third and final lift.
Mm-hmm.
How's that? What's the vibe?
As in what I have to go through?
Yeah. The third and final one is the decider, I guess, to get the second place.
No, I won I pretty much won the medal on the first attempt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was in such good shape that I started quite heavy, and Yeah, I actually got one lifting. So second and third lifts I didn't get. It was actually a very bad performance compared to London. And it's weird how you look back and you go, your performance wasn't great, but you did enough. So looking back, I was in 200 kilo shape. I was going in there to make history as being, I think the only athlete in the UK to ever bench press 200 at this sort of weight. I think only 3 or 4 men in history have ever done that globally in that class or in the lightweight classes. And I thought I could be one of them. And I'll do it clean because I'm not on drugs. So imagine. So I was going in there thinking, this is the shape of my life. If you're going to get 200 on the platform, this is it. And actually, I underperformed in Rio. I only got 190. The pressure probably got to me in terms of the pressure that I put on myself to try win the medal. Because I said to myself, I don't care what I lift. I just want a medal. So that mindset was bad. And I guess looking back, afterwards, I was really annoyed with myself. Even though there was a silver there and I'd done it, I thought it would have been much better if I won a bronze and bench 200. If you offered me bronze and 200, I would have taken that instead of the silver and 190. Because 200 for me was like a Paralympic medal. It was the dream. It was history. I can only say I benched 200 in the gym, but in the gym it doesn't matter. So my best ever was 195 in competition, and I have to live with that.
Just a bit.
Oh, yeah.
2.5 plates.
Oh, yeah.
So, you're doing a PhD right now as well.
For my sins, yeah.
And what are you doing it about?
My PhD is in anti-doping and integrity issues in parasport.
Okay. So, what's your take on anti-doping? On doping,
How much have you got? So, when I first started, we'll go back when I was 16, the first week of training, my coach sat me down. He said, I'm going to tell you something, and you can walk away or you stay. But you have to promise that, you really think about your answer. So he said to me that powerlifting is one of the most dirtiest sports on the planet. And to be in the top 8 in the world, maybe, top 8 in the world at the time, you had to be on drugs. You had to take drugs. Like, because the lifts they were doing were crazy. Like, just to qualify, 180, to qualify. That's crazy. Like, So he said to me that drug testing at the time is behind the dopers. The dopers have good scientists, they have good doctors, the system can't catch them. And I in 10 years, I have to have a decision to make, because if I'm on the platform, if I'm on the podium and I'm second or third, and the two in front of me, or the person in front of me, is taking drugs, I have to have a choice of taking drugs to win at all costs, or I can sleep well at night knowing that I'm the best clean athlete on the planet and I scared the shit out of them. He goes, you've got 2 choices. You take drugs or you do this clean. He goes, if you're going to take drugs, you have to go out my gym, because I don't do dopers. I don't train dopers. He goes, but if you take the second option, I will give you my best. It's going to be hard. We have to do things differently. You're going to have to really grind for it, but I'll make you the best clean athlete the country's ever seen. And and that's when my fascination of anti-doping came, because I wanted to change the system. And I've competed against loads of dopers.
Really?
And I've beaten them. So, but to beat a doper is incredibly difficult. Like, you have to live a certain way that nobody can understand, because you have to be that's more stricter. You have to live in a way that it's like a prison, because the dope has the advantage chemically, so they can recover better, and you have to be cleverer. And dopers are not clever, unless it's unless you've got a country that's clever, got the facilities, and they're doping at the same time, then you can't compete. But when you've got countries that were doping, they didn't have the facilities that we had in the UK. So sports science bridged the gap, So yeah, luckily I lifted big weights for a clean athlete, and I won medals that were hard to obtain. But I can look back at my career knowing that regardless of the medals, I did it clean, and I did it with integrity. And I think no matter how I'm remembered, that's what I want to be remembered for. Not the medals, not the world record, was the way I lived. And that's where my fascination came.
And throughout your, how long was it? 17. How many years did you lift for?
15, 16 years.
So throughout the 15, 16 years, had it ever crossed your mind, for example, a session wasn't going too well, you'd say, how easy would it be? Just a bit a small boost.
No, so it's funny because people thought I was on drugs. Because I was benching so well, people generally thought I was on drugs anyway, which was a compliment for me because I was like, okay, this is great. Like, I'm getting complimented. There was a discussion by, I guess, a nutritionist, and he was joking, but he said, if I put my science hat on, forget about the program, forget about anything else, just as a scientist, because you're so gifted, clean, imagine if you microdosed, you bench press 240. At 50 flying kilo, you bench press 240, easy. He goes, like, it's crazy, like what I think you're capable of as a human. But obviously, we'd never do it. But the fact that as a scientist, trying to push the boundaries of performance, you're so gifted naturally that imagine if you got an extra boost. It's crazy. But we'd never do it, obviously. But like, you always imagine like what it could have been, how much I could have lifted. But for me, I'm happy to. I'd never do it anyway because I've got Crohn's. I'm already sick. I'm already fighting for my life every day. Why on earth would I put in more chemicals to my body to make it worse? So even if I had the choice of taking drugs and not get caught, I wouldn't do it anyway. I couldn't sleep. I'd struggle. I'd be guilty. Yeah.
What's the science behind doping?
It's a whole art.
Yeah, but basically, doping can give you between 5 to 15% on your natural performance, right? That's a lot in elite sport, So as a clean athlete, you have to use natural means to try bridge the gap. So sports science, lifestyle, nutrition, everything, right? So because the system can't test every single athlete every single day, that athletes don't go through the gaps. But then you've got countries like, we know Russia, that have state-run doping. And I've competed against them because they take the piss out of me when I compete against them because, we've seen things. Obviously, athletes see things. You raise the issue and nothing happens. And they're very, unfortunately, dopers quite arrogant about it. They know they can get away with it and they look at you and it's like, there's no shame. And it gets me quite angry, but I'm always someone that goes, I can't help that situation. So I'm going to have to try and beat them. So there's no excuses here. But it does frustrate you. You have to get used to that frustration of knowing who you're competing against is potentially doping and deny you, a potential medal.
And what was your, what is the craziest experience you've had in the village with all the foreign athletes?
In terms of doping?
I mean, both.
Yeah, so at a world championship, I think I was sitting next to a nurse, I think, a team nurse from another country. She had loads of flags in a bag, and obviously her team was lifting. They did very well. She started jumping. The bag fell. There's loads of needles on the floor. She saw what I was trying to take my phone out, but it's in my bag. So I was getting the phone, trying to take a picture. She managed to get the needles, stuff them in the bag, and ran. So but I knew what was happening because the team was flying. They put in 7% in a year. Every single one of them put 7% on the total a year. That's crazy. We reported it. Nothing happened, and then a couple of weeks later, Russia got banned. Russia got that documentary came out
Of
Icarus.
Icarus, yes.
And then suddenly the ball started rolling.
What's this documentary?
It's an amazing documentary. Yeah. It's how Russia had done the state-run doping, and they were passing bottles from the
through the walls. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah,
just so they could have clean tests.
So actual documentary.
Yes, you should check it out. It's amazing.
And they never caught him. He fled the country. The one who blew the whistle.
Personally, I think he should be hired by anti-doping because he knows.
But he's in danger. They're looking for him.
I know, but personally, imagine he beat the system in a way that I've never seen. I want to employ him to try counter what he did, because only he knows.
Having a good conversation with him will
It'll blow your mind.
change.
Yeah, so obviously he's bad for what he did, right?
But he's smart.
But he's so clever. The issue that I have is that I think we should learn from him.
He's playing on the wrong team.
Yeah, come to anti-doping and play for the right team and actually protect athletes rather than dope them. But yeah, obviously he's been protected at the moment. He's in hiding, and that will never happen. But for me, I'd want to just talk to him about how we counter that, because I think we've got a lot to learn from him.
And I think Russia are one of the most advanced countries when it comes to like sports science in that manner.
Yeah, well, they've been doing it for years in terms of the advancement, right? You've got loads of training methods from Russia. I think for me, like, I know now they're going to be allowed to compete at the Paralympic Games next year. I'm not too happy with it. I think that they seem to get away with a lot, and we seem to let him back in all the time. And I think that sometimes enough's enough, personally.
The flags don't show on many of the sports, in fact. It's the Russian Olympic Federation now.
Flags don't matter because the athletes are competing. Those athletes are there physically denying you of a place.
And they're not getting caught.
So for me, it's regardless of what you think about the neutral flag or it being neutral, the athletes are still there. You're still competing against a Russian athlete that potentially shouldn't have been there. And now I think they've caused chaos, and we've let them cause chaos. And yeah, for me, it's tough on the athletes that have integrity because they think the system has failed them.
Sorry for my 10 minutes of silence, but
It's fine. It's a really interesting
I'm not
topic.
knowledgeable in this, but it's like from the outside perspective, it's crazy. Like what you guys were talking about.
It's like hacking in tech. Knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And then not using it right, I guess.
Oh, it's insane what happened. Yeah, it's insane. But the thing is, I hope the system learns from it. I hope they can put things in place now to try protect athletes and have harsher sanctions on state dopers. The issue is, I don't think they will learn from it. I think this will happen again, personally.
History does repeat itself.
It does, I think so.
Technology is always improving, so...
Yeah. You're always going to get a mad scientist in the future, I think.
From a scientific perspective or biology perspective, what's the fallout of doping? Like, these dopers, after a certain amount of years, will they like internally fuck themselves up, or like what?
Yeah, I think the side effects are, I think, you could... It increases your likelihood of diseases and conditions in the future. But the issue is, it makes you feel superhuman for 5 years. You feel superhuman. You can do anything. You think you can do anything. And that feeling as an athlete, knowing that you could feel like that and also win medals for your country, you'd rather take that over a medical condition you might get in 10 years. You're willing to take the risk. Athletes are risk takers. They have to be, right? So that's why doping happens, because the reward at the end is greater than the risk in the future, because they can't see in 10 years' time. They would actually probably rather not live for 10 more years than go to the Olympic Games, cheat, and win a medal. I think that study has been done. They asked athletes.
Probably.
Yeah. What would you rather, like, dope now, get a gold medal, but in 5-10 years' time you're dead? Or do you not take it and live longer? They said, don't go for the medal. It's crazy. Yeah, so that's how athletes think. It's weird for me.
I mean, I've read that athletes like yourself are some of the most dedicated people in the world, of course, on an insane level. I'm not talking about doping or whatever, but I've seen that there is also a higher percentage of people athletes that once they achieve what they wanted to achieve, after they don't know what to do with their lives. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think there was
the Olympic blues.
There's a word for it.
So the Olympic blues. Yeah, when you get to a games, you have to remember it's 4 years of the most grueling sacrifice you're ever going to make. You deny yourself so much, but because you hype it up in your head every day, you get it, And because it's so high, and people don't understand how high that is. And we're talking about, you know, imagine for you, for example, what is the ultimate dream for you? And you get it.
The ultimate dream for me.
Yeah. What's like the thing that you've dreamt of all your life?
I think just being in a position of being financially free.
Yeah. Okay, that's what many people will say.
Imagine having double
But
that.
imagine having double or triple that. You'd be like, what do I do now? I'm bored. There's no purpose for me because I've already got what I want. There's no purpose. So that's when athletes go, oh, well, it's happened. It's in another 4 years. I know what it's taken to get there. I don't want to do it again because I know like, it hurts. To get there, it hurts. And imagine you get there, then you win a medal. So that suddenly you work really hard, you achieve what you want, and suddenly massive crash. Your body breaks down emotionally and mentally because you're repressing a lot of your emotions, right? Because
Throughout those 4 years?
yeah, because it's a roller coaster. Training doesn't go right for periods of time. You've got other issues in your life you have to sort out, but you have to block them. You have to be able to really zone in on the goal. And sometimes you're robotic and emotionless, but you have to get things done regardless of what's happening. And suddenly, after it happens, suddenly you get hit by a emotional bomb where everything gets let out. It could be relief, it could be emotion, it could be things that you've repressed. But you're not the same for 6 months after. You're not. Like physically, mentally, emotionally, not the same. You feel very sad.
How did you feel? Because of course you've been through it in many different points in your life, like going to the games. How did you handle that?
Yeah, it was weird because I got warned about it in Beijing, but it didn't happen to me because I got sick. Yeah, so for me, I went to the games, it was great, but then I got sick. So I was fine for my life. That was my blues. Yeah. And then 2012, it was controversial with where I came. It wasn't depression, it was sadness because of the controversy behind it. Because I came fourth, but it should have been a medal if it wasn't for external refereeing decisions.
This was the 2 reds.
This was the 2 reds, yeah. So the real blues was Rio. Because everything during that cycle was optimized for me to try and achieve that medal. And I was in the best shape ever. Things didn't really go wrong in that cycle for me. But what was in my mind was 2 things. 1, I was haunted by 2012 every day. I had to think about that. And 2, no Crohn sufferer's ever done it. And I was about to do both. I was about to achieve the career slam and medals and be a Crohn sufferer that's won a medal there. That for me was a huge thing. And when I achieved it, I was like, oh, this is it. This is everything you've dreamt of when you were 6. How did it really make you feel? Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Like, yeah, like you get invited to events afterwards and you go viral and you get invited to lots of programs and you get popular, but I don't like being popular. Like, I don't like crowds. I actually don't like human beings. I've got to be around them. So for me, I was like, this is chaos because it's disorganized. My life now was disorganized. It wasn't structured. My weeks weren't planned because you had to be on this media, going out to this event. And you can enjoy it for a week. But after that, I want to get back to a routine. And the routine went out the window for 6 months. Completely out the window. And that's where the sadness was. It wasn't the fact that it was over. It was the fact that I'd done it. I just didn't know what to do with myself because it was just chaos.
There was no plan B after that.
The plan was to go to Tokyo. The thing was, that 6 months was so intense in terms of external distractions from the gym because obviously you get time off. You have to fill that time off. How do you do it? Well, you go out, you have fun, you do what you do at university because I didn't live that lifestyle. You go out and do things and be silly and do the things that people celebrate with. You see your friends and family more and meet new people. But for me, it was I'd let my standards down. My standard is here. That's how I live. But then for that 6 months, it was here. I went to Vegas for a week as well to celebrate. Like some of the behaviors that I did, I was like, this is not me. Like, it's not me. So I came back just kind of disappointed. I got to December in 2016. Got to December and I thought, this is not Ali. like you are disciplined. This is your standard. Like, sack everything off and like, let's go for this now. The issue was, because of dipping in my standards on a daily basis, I caused another flare-up of my Crohn's, the biggest flare of my career, and that cost me my career. So that's the level that I was at, and any reduction meant my Crohn's was going to come back and really bite me in the bum, and it did. Yeah, so that's why I was very kind of frustrated with myself. There's nobody else to blame apart from me. I always take responsibility of my actions. But yeah, that's what happened.
And that was in which year?
2016.
2016.
Yeah. So
Exactly after the games.
yeah, so I won the medal, loads of celebrations for 6 months, and then in maybe November time we had the blood test because I had to get checked. There was inflammation in my body, but we ignored it because I always say that, you know, when they say that if it's not fixed, don't break it.
Mm.
Well, I actually go, no, if it's not broken, if it's not broken, don't fix it, sorry. But if it's not broken, you fix it anyway. Break it anyway, because you might find a gap to get you better.
Okay.
And what we did was, and this was my fault, we ignored that sign. And we carried on. Because I wasn't in any pain, I wasn't having the symptoms, but my bloods were saying, there's inflammation here, be careful. Because I just won a medal, I was in the best shape ever, I ignored it. And it cost me. Well, it's still costing me now. So, yeah, it's been, and that's what happens when your standards drop. So it wasn't the Paralympic blues, it was more like I felt my standards dropping from normal and I wasn't happy with myself.
I think the discipline that you mentioned, like, kept with you because you noticed that your standards went below what you usually used to, and you were able to pick yourself back up and continue with it.
Yeah, so everything that's happened in my life in terms of being adaptable and disciplined, it was the last cycle in Tokyo where everything was tested to the limit. Because of that flare-up that I say I caused, and I take responsibility for that flare, for 2 years, I couldn't compete because I was too sick. We tried every medication on the market. Nothing worked. I was very sick. And in 2018, I remember I had the consultant saying to me that they can't do anything for me anymore. And you have two options. One was a stoma bag. And two, there's a stem cell trial over a year, but you have to have aggressive chemotherapy. And in that trial, you might die. Any option that you pick now, you have to retire. There's no comeback this time. And I was in the room with my psychologist, sports psychologist at the time, and I was like, "Oh, this is serious now. Like this is bad." And I thought to myself, "Okay, can I retire now, being happy with what I've achieved, and walk away and try and fight for my life here, or do I really want to go to Tokyo and realize and accept that I'm not going to medal, but is my medal just to get there? Is my medal pushing Crohn's to a limit that no other human being has ever taken it to? And am I willing to die for it?" They're the questions in my head. So 24 hours later, having reflected by myself in the dark in my room, literally I was in the dark for hours just reflecting on everything. I realized that because we've monitored me for years, I know any medication on the market and what it does to my body. I know exactly what it does to me. So I suggested a third option to the doctor. I sat down with my team. I told them what I wanted to do. They thought it was crazy. But we managed to convince, I guess, the consultant we kind of pitched like Dragon's Den, basically. We pitched like this, we think this could happen. And what we did was we tried to navigate a way where, even though it's never been done that way, to get me to the games, but the risk of it could have been fatal. So at its worst, it could kill me. At its least, I'd be struggling every single day just to live because of what the drug was going to do to me, like internally. So the drug is a catabolic steroid. Catabolic means breakdown. So you've got anabolic, which you want to have because it's muscle growth, but catabolic does the opposite. So it breaks down your muscle tissue. You don't recover. your tendons get very weak, so you rip your pec quite a lot. So I ripped loads of my pecs in 4 years, and it was just it's weird because people say to me, "You went through abuse on purpose," and that's what it was. It literally was abuse on purpose to try and get to the games. But what it did was everything that I learned in my career, I had to use everything in my toolbox. I had to throw everything at it. I knew it was going to come. I knew it was coming because we know every kind of scenario that could play out. And I had to ask myself whether or not, am I willing to drag my team into this? Because if I give up, I let them down. And they're backing me. Like we had a meeting. Nobody said to me, it can't be done. So they believed in me I could do it. But I knew the pressure that I had to make it now because you had, people that I care about putting their jobs on the line for me here because it's never been done. So the fact that you had people that had faith in you, you had people that are willing to put their bodies mentally, emotionally on the line for you, and regardless of what other people thought outside the circle, had their support, we managed to get me to Tokyo. Obviously, it wasn't a medal, but the fact that I got there was my gold medal. And it was probably the greatest achievement of my life because I know it sounds crazy, but the fact that I even made it there alive was crazy because of what I had to do. I guess that's another podcast in itself because it's literally a film that 2 years.
We're down for a part 2. Shall we take a lighter approach and talk about things you do on a day-to-day life? For example, something that I was curious about is, are your home countertops lower?
I was thinking about that.
No, I can stand on my stumps. I've got a tiptoe that I can tiptoe.
Okay.
It's quite funny.
All right, so you in your house, you have normal.
Normal.
Okay.
Yeah. I climb. I can reach things on the top shelf. It's easy. Adapt. When people see it, they're like, "Oh my god!" Even I can't reach down. I'm 6 foot.
That's good.
And the dating life.
Oh, this is the first time I'm going to speak about dating ever in public.
Ooh,
Yeah, so it's a pressure.
So, shall we talk about dating as an athlete or as someone with a disability?
Oh,
yeah,
okay, both. Yeah, both.
Yeah, and I think you to start you off, you have like a lot of confidence.
I have, yeah.
So I assume you had the same when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that play out when it came to dating?
So, because I grew up in a way that I was very confident, I knew what I was capable of, I knew what I offered, and I was also quite cute. So not anymore, but I was cute. So like,
I'll take your word for
yeah, I'll show you the pictures. Being disabled meant that I got away with more stuff. I was very cheeky, right? Very cheeky. And because I'm disabled, girls are like, "Oh, he's disabled. He doesn't, it's fine." He's also quite cute and he says the right things, blah, blah, blah. So actually, like, dating was actually, I used to date quite a lot as a kid in terms of...
Would you date average height women, like, or?
No, I do like tall women. I do, yeah. They're all been taller than me, if that's what it's saying. But yeah, like, I know girls like guys that are 6 foot. I go to them while I'm 3'10", and we're the same height in bed. So, I can't grow legs, but, you can come down to my level. So it's fine. So when you're cheeky like that and you're confident, they're like, "Oh, you know what? He's funny." So just be funny. Yeah, I've tried to always use humor. So dating as a disabled person has never really affected me. Nobody's kind of rejected me because of that. And dating as an athlete, well, that's interesting because as an athlete, I try to not get into relationships because not many people, and it's not women, but also men, that date female athletes, they don't get the lifestyle. It is tough. It is like, as an athlete, you have to be so selfish and driven that the people around you have to really love you to deal with you. Trust me. You cancel date night last minute, you can't go out, you can't drink, you have to meal prep instead of going out for a meal. Like, there's things where you're always away on training camps or competing, and when you're in competition mode, that's it, nobody counts. So you become this very self-absorbed, selfish person, and it's quite destructive when someone doesn't really understand it. So I've always tried to pick wisely, is what I'd say. Vet them, make sure that they're capable, prepare them for what's coming. So even on the first date, you're like, this. If not, fine, like, respect, go away. I'll go my own way. But many girls want to be part of the journey. Many girls want to show you off to their friends, their families, like, look who I'm dating, like stuff like that. But behind closed doors, it gets tough for them. And eventually they will crack. And that's been the kind of pattern. So I guess what I've learned is that, one, you have to be very honest from the beginning. And two, you have to be able to always check in on them every week. Are you okay with me doing this? Like, are you fine? How are you feeling? I always check in to make sure that you are considerate, because what they've done is they've sacrificed a part of them to be with you, because they're experiencing something that nobody really experiences unless you date an athlete. So, yeah, I've had to kind of, you have to have honest conversations. And for me, communication is a big thing. I need people to tell me how they think, why they think it, how they feel, because I'm not a mind reader. And many girls like you to be a mind reader. We're not, unfortunately. I'm not an alien. I look like one, but I'm not an alien. So, I want people to sit me down and go, this is why. I just need to understand their perspective, rather than, oh, you should know. You should know you've done this. I was like, well, you didn't communicate that. So as an athlete, it's quite hard when you've got habits that are very regimental and they're trying to fit into that regimented life. It's very difficult. But yeah, so I always say pick wisely. That's my advice.
Any unique dating experiences, and have they affected, like, the night before a competition, maybe?
Oh, okay, so I've got this thing where I have sex, right? So I don't have sex, like, probably 4 weeks before.
Retention.
Yeah, like 4 weeks before competition. They did a study in America where they took guys and they, I think 50% had sex, 50% didn't. And I think they saw what affected their performance. It's basically 50-50. So I had to experiment on myself, basically, and go, right, what kind of guy am I? Can I have sex the night before and compete? Or do I have to have, do I not have sex, basically? So what I used to do, and this is crazy, I used to make the girl sleep in the other bedroom because I have to sleep for training. I have to recover. So she has to sleep in the spare bed.
From 4 weeks before?
Even within training. Sometimes when she's over, if I've got a big session in the morning, and usually my big sessions are Friday, I'm like, right, you're in the spare room. You can cuddle me in the morning, but you're in the spare room tonight because I need to sleep. So I can't really sleep with people next to me. I struggle.
Okay.
Because if they move about, some girls talk in their sleep, some girls slap you. It's weird. So, yeah, so I have to politely ask them to move into the other room for a night or two, explain why. They get it, but they don't like it. Yeah.
Like, do you sleep alone?
No, I sleep with my girlfriend. But it's funny you say that because I read recently, it was a study, that actually, like, from a health perspective, it's healthier to sleep alone than to sleep with someone. So
yeah, it's a thing. So I might do it long term.
It's backed by science, at least.
I think that was a good end to the podcast. We don't want to keep you too long. When's your flight now?
Tomorrow.
All right. So we caught you just on time.
Before we end the podcast, we can literally do like a 5-minute closing on what he's doing now. You have a company now, tech company. I think the most important plug that he can do.
Yes, go for it.
Okay, big
All
plug.
out. What are you doing right now, and what's the vision?
Okay, so context is key. So during the first lockdown, I reflected on my career as a disabled person growing up in gyms, and I realized that I never asked a question of why I was the only disabled person in the gym, ever. I thought, well, maybe you're different because you wanted to go to the Paralympic Games, but what are the barriers stopping disabled people going to the gym? And has that changed in 15, 20 years? And it hasn't. So there's so many fitness apps out there, so many. There's actually 71,000 fitness apps on the market, right? So non-disabled people have a lot of choice. So I got curious and thought, there must be one for disabled people. So I started looking things up, some researching, and realized there's nothing. Like, there's no fitness app on the market that caters specifically for disabled people. There's other fitness apps that have disability in them, but it's generic. It's not disability specific.
Nothing catered.
Nothing catered. So I thought, I think I can do this. So within the hour, I started writing down some notes, called my manager and said, do you fancy it? He goes, you're crazy, but let's do it. He goes, how much money have you got? I said, well, my life savings. He's like, right, let's do it. He goes, I'm all in. So, we went from idea to MVP and launch in the UK in 8 months during COVID. We managed to do it. And I'm not a coder. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm just an athlete that finds a way. And we did it. So now, 2 years on, we're expanding into other countries. So hopefully Brazil in the next couple of months. The app is available in Malta, by the way, now, and America next year. So it's definitely taken off in a way where I couldn't imagine that it's taken off. But we knew that the idea was going to be popular with, you've got 1.2 disabled people globally with no access to a fitness app. And this is the one that I feel could make them exercise independently for the first time ever. So I'm still not happy with the app because my standards are here, but we'll promise you, if you're patient with me, we'll get you to a place where I think it could be the most accessible fitness app there's ever been, in my opinion.
How much is it? 1.2 billion?
Disabled people in the world.
Billion. Would that be?
Yeah, it would be.
Hopefully your future bank account after you sell the app.
I'll probably give a lot of it away because it's too much for me.
Really?
Because I live a simple life. I'm not really into the luxury. Yes, apart from my trainer collection, I've got nothing.
You're?
No, I'm joking. my trainer collection.
I thought your train collection. That's what I
No,
heard.
trainer.
Amazing. Thanks for joining. Super episode. Guys, if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, follow, and comment. What should they comment?
As in
the comments.
just comment Ali Jawad and tag me in it.
Tell them your social so they can follow you as well.
Yeah, so Ali Jawad Powerlifter on Instagram. But more importantly, follow the app and share it with every disabled person that you know. So Exercise is the app. So it should be on my handle in my bio in my Instagram. So yeah, make sure you tell every disabled person that you know.
The logo is going to be here. Here.
Yeah,
Mav.
You have to add the logo
over here. Thank you guys. See you at the next one.